All right, and we shift gears. As earlier mentioned, finances are very, very important. And, you know, in a space where almost everyone, has a debt or, is probably contemplating to get to that space of, borrowing some money or whatever it is that you borrow, it is important that we have conversations that would be helpful, that even as you march into this space of debt, you are careful not to land yourself into more trouble financially. And therefore, we have a financial advisor with us on set this morning who will take us through this pretty much conversation of understanding, a very important conversation of understanding the aspect of good debts and bad debts. And I personally ask myself, is there anything as good debt? Because the moment you incur a debt, my belief is that you are a slave automatically to the person that you have borrowed this money. And so we have the CEO of, he will tell us whether it's Citadel or Citadel Consulting Limited, Wahome Ngari, who will be joining us for this very conversation. And I'm sure this is one that you really want to be part and parcel of it. And so any questions that you could be having this morning for him, I am certain that he will be the best person to answer as pertaining to owning debt. You've heard President Uhuru Kenyatta saying that even Japan borrows. I mean, who are we not to borrow? And therefore, for an individual, for a nation, for a company, just how important is it for one to run into debt, and how well can you create a balance so that this does not, run you into financial trouble? They say good debt is defined as money owned for things that can help build wealth. But then what is bad debt? That bad debt refers to things like credit cards or other consumer debt, pretty much little to improve your financial outcome. But then again, more from the expert, and it's an honor to have you, sir. Been watching you. Great thing that you do in terms of enlightening people on matters finances, which we do not get the privilege. There's always a general feeling that it's expensive to seek financial advice, but perhaps today you are going to tell us something different as pertaining to the same. And so as we speak about good debt and bad debt, my first question, is there anything as good debt?
Let's start by saying good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me on set. Is there something like good debt? And let's start. What's debt itself?
Right.
Debt is other people's money. So when you're holding other people's money, you are in debt.
Yes.
And like you just said, the nation has debt. Every nation, the Americas, the Japan, Kenya, all nations have debt. Institutions have debt. Companies go into debt all the time. Individuals cannot afford not to have debt. The question is it necessary to have debt? There are many things in life, if you look at it at a personal level, it will be difficult to accomplish without using other people's money. If I wanted to own a house, how long would it take me to save until one day I have all the money to buy the house? So it gets easier to go to a financier who could actually be a bank, could be an employer, could be a housing company, could be the SACCO, and I borrow the money and I actually use it to own a house. If I wanted to better my education, because it is necessary in life, I want to improve myself, it might be necessary to go and borrow somewhere so that I can actually be able to do that. So when you look at debt, we can divide debt into two, good debt and bad debt. What's good debt? Any money you take from others that improves your future. It must improve your future. If you look at it, and there are many lenders, we can always think they are formal lenders, people who or institutions that are actually licensed to lend. That's the work of banks. That's what they do. Microfinance institutions, they are regulated by the central bank and their work is to lend. Cooperative societies or SACCOs are regulated by SASRA and their work is to lend. If you look at banks, they give us credit cards. That's already lending. But we also have very many other sources that are not regulated. I can borrow from my friends. I can borrow from my work colleagues. There's no regulator for that. I can borrow from my chama. There's no regulator for that. I can actually borrow from the Shirok, and there's no regulator for that. So if you think about it, bad debt is any debt that you get that doesn't improve your future. So I think if I simply put it, and I can give you many examples of many debts we get into that actually don't improve our future.
And that we will come to. But even before we delve deep into the question of debt, first of all, something small about your entity and how much, so much so, does it articulate the matters of finances, and especially because you see the person who's watching this morning would love to have that confidence that indeed they are getting it from a specialist.
Okay, yeah. My name is Wahome Ngari. I am the CEO at Citadel Consulting, and Citadel Consulting runs the Personal Finance Academy. The work of the Personal Finance Academy, which has been in existence now for the last 7 years, is to help people to actually have a good relationship with their money. And we achieve that through financial literacy programs. So we train people so that then you have a very good relationship with your money. You know, money is interesting. Everybody deals with money all the time, every time. But for some reason, they avoided teaching us this in school. We didn't even find it in college. So if you're lucky, your parents will have taught you something.
Right.
If they didn't teach you, you might have learned from the University of Life, or maybe sometimes the College of Hard Knocks. You know, you made mistakes, and out of your mistakes, you learn something. So that's what we do. We do financial literacy programs in corporates, in organizations. We train people who are newly employed. We train people who are getting retrenched, people who are preparing to retire. I'm a coach. I'm a certified financial coach. So I sit with individuals who actually want to better their finances. So that's what I do on a daily basis.
All right. Yeah. Amazing. And so, like you have said, carrying some sort of debt has become a way of life for a majority of Kenyans. Any average Kenyan will tell you that they cannot do without debt. But what does that speak of the general economy of a nation? That if today if I want to advance in life, if I want to have my own piece of land, it is almost impossible for one to just wake up and say that, well, I have worked and this is the amount of money I've garnered. The majority of them will not be able to do that unless they incur some essence of debt. What does it speak of the average and the national aspect of the economic situation?
I think sometimes it speaks to us about our saving culture, and we don't have a very big saving culture.
Yeah. Is there anything to save in the first place?
That's a good question. For some people, there is more than enough to save, but we actually don't even get to save. Okay. Yes, and there's obviously another big set of the population who don't have enough to be able to save. Okay, and saving is a mindset. It doesn't matter what your income is. You can always look for ways and means to actually make sure you don't spend everything that you have.
Yeah.
And the fact that people are indebted is not a bad thing. It's a question of what are we indebted for? Because if we are indebted because we borrowed and we have owned the houses we are living in, I think that's not a bad thing. If I'm indebted because as a junior officer in the company, I realized if I want to become the manager, I need to do a professional qualification. I'm a junior accounting clerk and I want to become the accountant. And I borrowed money and actually went and studied accounting. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm a salesperson and I've realized I actually need a car to be able to move from point A to point B very quickly, and I've actually used debt to finance that car. There's nothing wrong with that. I am, in my business or my profession, I need to make presentations, and I found I'm shy and I'm not able to do things like this. So I've actually borrowed money and I've gone and learned public speaking, so I'm a better person. There's nothing wrong with that. I have a business and I realized I want to expand my business, and so the easiest thing is to borrow and come and expand my business. In fact, I'll hire more people. So there's nothing wrong with all those things, and those are the ones we are calling the good debts. But there's a challenge when every time we borrow, whatever we do, it doesn't improve our quality of life. It doesn't improve our future. So I've actually borrowed, and I bought a phone because everybody is buying a new phone. So I'm suffering from something called other people's opinion or the fear of missing out. So I'm going to go on holiday on credit. If you look at it, when I come back, I will have more stress dealing with that credit. If I've borrowed because I put my children in a fairly expensive school and I'm actually not able to afford, so